Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adam Kiss Show. Today, I have a very, 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 very special person with another very, very added on there as my guest today, the world famous concert pianist, Christina Kiss. And it's no accident that she also happens to be my mom. So today, I really just wanted to take a moment to actually interview her on this show, just like I would interview anyone else, and talk a little bit about her incredible career. Um, and yeah, I mean, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Well, my name is Christina Kiss, and I'm a concert pianist. Besides being Adam's mom, I was born in Hungary, and in the 80s, I came to this country. I got married, and then I attended Juilliard School, and then I started my Liszt cycle, and then I had you, which
Yeah.
was really the highlight of my life.
And I mean, why don't you tell them all about my big stage debut at about 2 months old or so
Oh,
at Carnegie
yes.
Hall? I mean, because of her, I made my stage debut at 2 months old. So I've been
Yes,
performing
that's
since.
that's true because you were born in August, and then in October, in the middle of October, I actually had one of my list cycle installments at Carnegie Hall, and I brought you out on stage, and you loved it. You're a stage animal. I have to tell you, honestly, you come alive, and it didn't change since then. So it just intensified.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we're definitely going to get into the list cycle and everything and how and why you started that. But why don't we just go through a little bit chronologically? I mean, I know the story, but for everyone, so what was your early musical experience like in Hungary and in Budapest? I mean, I know you grew up on the Buda side of Budapest. And what was it like,
Yes, that's
growing
absolutely
up and
right.
your early musical experiences there?
Yes, I mean, both of my parents were into music. I mean, my mom, she was a piano teacher and also a pianist. My dad, more like an amateur tenor singer. And I remember those events, when we had a lot of guests for dinner. And then always after the dinner, they always asked my dad to sing, and then my mom always accompanied him. And that actually reminds me also of when I was accompanying you a lot while you were singing and you did your concerts. But so I was 8 years old when I started piano, and I really wanted to start earlier, but my mom said that no, no, you really have to want it badly. Instead of just okay, you have to start at 6 years old because your mom is a piano teacher, and so it wasn't the case. So by the time I was 8, I was definitely ready, and I had a piano teacher who was not that happy with me in the first 6 months. And I remember sometimes crying a little bit, but I loved music so much. I mean, she was tough on me because I guess maybe I didn't recognize the notes fast enough. But then after 6 months, she was so proud of me. And my love affair started with music, with piano.
It's interesting that you said that because that you started at 8 years old, you said?
8 years old, yes.
So that's interesting because most people, these days would say, "Oh, that's too late" or something. I mean, most people would think. I mean, how old was Mozart when he composed his first piece? Maybe 5 years old or something like that. I want to say, and that was maybe he probably started
Absolutely.
much earlier. So, funnily enough, I mean, most people that's a very young age, but most people consider that to be even late, especially for someone who becomes a professional, world class. I mean, one of the greatest pianists who ever lived, like you.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh my God, am I flattered?
Well, no,
Um,
it's the truth,
yeah,
though. I
but
mean,
I,
anyone who hasn't heard
I
of
really wanted it.
one of the greatest in
And the
history.
funny thing is that again, in the beginning, maybe I was slow recognizing the notes, but after 6 months, I actually played the original Führeris, which most kids would probably do after about 2 years. And from there on, my appetite just grown. I love sight reading. And my holiday was always when my teacher gave me, I mean, the best day of my life was always when my teacher gave me a new piece. I went home and instead of even almost like washing my hand or eating anything, I just went to the piano. I just wanted to see where does that piece develop and how long the piece is, and oh my God, I love that. And to today, I'm the same way. It's such a good feeling when you learn a new piece. And unfortunately, today it's kind of gone a little bit from the kids. They don't like sight reading because, first of all, they are not so good at it because they never they never do it. For me, it's almost like reading like a great novel that I can't put down. And when I tell some kids that that's how I used to be, almost like reading a great novel that I can't put down, that I'm the same way sight reading a piece, they think that I kind of went the other way. I'm a little bit cuckoo. But it's a wonderful feeling, and it's a wonderful. You have to master it, though. It doesn't. You're not born with it. But some a little bit more than others. But it's a wonderful trait. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it totally resonates what you said about it's like reading a book or watching a
Right.
good movie or something
Right.
like that. It's just the excitement, the passion for what you do, which is what you've always had that, which is a beautiful thing. I mean, so many people in life don't, or like you mentioned, a lot, which I've noticed as well. A lot of the enthusiasm can be gone, these days. It just seems like.
Nowadays, it's a little bit different world with computers and technology, a lot higher level. Growing up, I didn't have any games or anything like that. Any computer games or those kind of things or PlayStations or what is like really pretty big now. Probably not even the PlayStation anymore. I'm sure that I don't even know about what is great today or what kids like today. But they spend most of the time on there playing those games instead of really just reading a book or practicing. Practicing is not like how it used to be when I was an 8 or 9 year old. We were totally committed. Now it's a little bit different. I'm not saying that nobody practices anymore. That would be a lie. But it's just evolved, I guess. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, totally. So basically, then, in Hungary, you eventually then went to the Franz Liszt Academy of Music and you started winning a bunch of piano competitions, all over. Um,
Right.
you were the really one of the biggest up and coming pianists. You were winning all the big piano competitions in the world, completely world class. And so, how did that all come about?
I loved it. I was also pretty independent at a young age. I remember already at 17, just flying to places alone without my parents and to competitions. And at first, always the first night, I was always a little bit homesick. But the moment you gave me a piano in a practice room, I was totally at home. To me, that represents home beside my real family. But if I have a piano, I feel very much at home. And also in my time, I met so many very famous people. I met Richter. I met I met Polini. I met Barenboim. I'm sure a lot of people would know these names. And I also grew up in a society and at the Franz Liszt Academy, where we had like very, very famous pianists. They were all older than me, like Zoltán Kocsis, Dezső Ranki, András Schiff, who actually is a great pianist, and he was actually my chamber music teacher. So we really had a lot of fun, and we did a lot of sight reading. We learned a lot of music, and it was wonderful, and we performed a lot as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember that when I was at Curtis, at the Curtis Institute, I mean, funnily enough, you went to Juilliard and I went to Curtis, the two biggest rival music,
Right?
which is really incredible. But I remember that I got to meet him. I believe when I was a kid, I met him a few times as well, Andras Schiff. But
Yes,
we also met
exactly.
him when he came to Curtis, and you also came down, and you guys got to reconnect a little
Yeah,
bit.
he did like a master class there, and he was very surprised. I haven't seen him in a really long time. And then in the 80s, I got married. I came here, and then I kind of felt a little bit alone in being in a different country, maybe not speaking English that well yet. And then my husband told me that why don't you try out for Juilliard School? And I did, and I had a fantastic Hungarian teacher, George Sandor, and I got full scholarship for the 4 years, and it was wonderful experience. I loved every moment of it. So that was a fantastic experience. I remember walking into David Dubal, who is a fantastic music historian, to his first class of music history. And I thought that, oh my God, what am I going to do here? I don't know English well enough, and how I'm going to understand things. And then I see all of those Asian kids, which, later on they became my friends. But at that time, they were not residing in the US. They just came freshly from China and from Japan and from Korea. they hardly knew any English. So then I felt like, hey, it's not so bad. And then I became David Duba's favorite pupil. I just love that man.
I know
He's
you told me like how you got to the point where you were like giving the exams to the other students, and
exactly.
you were playing the examples in every class and on the tests and everything, and
That's absolutely right.
you were like
I,
best buddies.
I loved it. I loved it. Those were fantastic times. And then, while I was at Juilliard, somehow simultaneously, my husband, who is also a pianist, he told me that you know so many Liszt pieces. Why don't you start a Liszt cycle? And that's true because since I was like 14, 15, I played Liszt nonstop. And then the same thing happened to David Dupas. He also said, why don't you perform all of Liszt's opus and orchestra pieces, solo pieces, transcriptions, and everything, paraphrases. And I had the time of my life. And then I even went on the Bob Sherman show. And I had a lot of interviews, I just loved it. I just loved it. And it is still ongoing. And I love what I'm doing. I wake up happy. Music is my life.
Yeah, I mean, and it must have been, interesting because I then also became an opera singer, and it's something that I still do now. I'm a little more into acting. Music is always still a big part of my life. I'm
Oh,
still a
yes.
singer, obviously, but it must be interesting that I'm also in the arts, and that's kind of a great legacy for you, I think.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think, what they say, I don't even know exactly the right or the left side of the brain is more like the artsy one. The math and the science,
I got that
yeah,
from you. I got that from you.
I think so. I'm not so great in math. I'm fantastic in
Oh,
music
neither am I.
because
Neither am I.
because music has a lot of, it's a great connection to math, all the rhythm and everything.
Supposedly.
Yeah, but not, no, a lot,
Yeah, I know.
but just not the regular biology or science or physics or chemistry. Yeah, that I always had an issue with. I always related very well to languages. At one point I spoke 5 languages fluently. Unfortunately, because I'm not practicing the others, I forgot Russian and French, but I still talk German, obviously Hungarian and English, a little bit Japanese. So I could get by in every country, I think, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, you really could, and that's really exciting about the list cycle. You did about 40 recitals in Carnegie Hall,
Go
or
for it, Chronic Hall. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I'm kind of like you. I come alive when there is an audience. Whenever we did those juries, like twice a year, back in Hungary, and even here at Juilliard School, we call them juries. Those are like exams twice a year, and you just have those judges. Those piano teacher judges. It's like 10, 15 of them. It's like a weird moment. It's like you don't feel free. You can't totally
I
express
know.
yourself. You always have to be
I've done them
careful.
too.
Yeah, you have to be careful that you can't do too many wrong notes. You're a little bit more rigid. But when there is a concert, and I remember doing the Van Cliburn competition and performing with the Tokyo String Quartet, and I remember at one point it was totally televised live, and I have a film crew, a film crew about like 2 feet away from me on the right side, 2 feet away on my left side. That's when I come alive. I just love those moments. A lot of people would freeze up, not me. I just
Yeah.
love that. The
And
more people, the better.
I totally agree. I definitely got that from you. I mean, I'm more nervous talking to one person than I would be talking to 20,000. I have no problem
Yeah,
on a stage in
that's
front of 20,000
exactly.
people or public speaking or nothing, but just talking to another person can be nerve-wracking sometimes.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's. I mean, for me, the talking is not so easy, but the playing is. So for me,
yeah.
the performing aspect of it. But for you, when you do a lecture or stuff like that, then you totally come alive, and there is
I
a lot.
totally understand that. Like when I was doing, with competitions and juries, I was definitely never like a jury member's favorite or a judge's favorite,
Yeah,
in terms of like with that. But I was always like the audience favorite or like that kind of person. I was better just like with the regular audience who came to see it. They ended up loving it.
that's
Um,
absolutely right.
but with you, you were both. You were both like the audience favorite. Plus, you were always the judge's favorite. They always gave you the top prizes and everything. So
Yeah,
you
that's
had
true.
both.
But it was always more nerve-wracking for me performing in front of the judges instead of a big audience. But yeah, but I love performing in any case, no
Yeah.
matter in front of whom.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, they just took, one listen to you and they said, okay, I mean, that's it. Nobody can top that. Um,
Ah,
Again,
thanks.
I don't think that there's a single person alive, and I think I'm saying this, I swear by this, that can play the music of Franz Liszt better than you.
Oh,
It's like you're tapped into Franz Liszt's soul. I mean, he was also a Hungarian
a
composer.
Hungarian, right?
Nobody can play it with the combination of the technical aspect, how proficient you are in that, plus the emotional aspect, which is really the most important. I think
You know
when
what
I'm
the fun?
listening to you, I just think that if I close my eyes, it could be Franz Liszt playing there.
Oh, thank you. The funny thing is that when studying at the Franz Liszt Academy, on the last floor, on the third floor, I believe, there was a little museum, the Franz Liszt Museum. And sometimes they left the door open, and I used to sneak in there and just sit in there and close my eyes. And I almost felt like his presence there. It's wonderful. I think I played my very first Liszt piece at 13. It was the Fountains of Villa d'Este, Jeu de la
Wow.
Villa d'Este, and that was I remember my dad
That was
screaming.
your that was your first list
That
piece?
was my very first Liszt piece,
Wow.
absolutely. The moment I could reach an octave or maybe nine notes, I mean, I knew that I could do Liszt. And a lot of the pieces he wrote for himself, he had a huge hand, and he also had a huge ego too. At one point he wrote in one of his letters that I wrote this piece for myself. I don't think anybody else could do it. So but you can't be a great artist without some egos also. But he was a fantastic man, and he had a big heart. I remember he was also teaching some people, and some people couldn't afford his fees, so he was teaching them free.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, talk about someone with a big heart. That's really you. I mean, you have the biggest heart of anyone I know. Um,
Mm, thank
it's
you.
such a privilege to be your son. It's
To have a son like you, I mean, that's the greatest day of my life when you were born. I know that. That's for sure. And that hasn't changed.
Well, thanks so much. I mean, again, you've been such a great mom, and I'm really looking forward to all the projects we've been working on together. And
Yes.
there's still so much to go. So I'm really happy about all that. We've got plenty more exciting stuff.
It
And it's
was
great,
great. It
when
was really great talking to you.
and yeah, well, it's great that when I was a singer, you were accompanying me so much, so like we could make music together. And we still do that, obviously.
Oh, yes.
It's just great to collaborate with you, that and it's funny because whenever we were singing together, um, you would like follow me to the ends of the earth. Like if I would do rubato in one area, you would totally slow down. It's like you knew what I was thinking before I was thinking.
Exactly.
What about all those times when you had to transpose music on site for me and you could do that like it was nothing and you can still do that. And it's really amazing that
But
you.
the funny thing is that they don't really teach that here at the Juilliard, but we had that course in Hungary where we had to, in Budapest, Hungary, at the Franz Liszt Academy, where we had to transpose on site. So I was very well trained on that. And it's like, let's say, going from F major down a minor third, down to like D major. And I used to do that on site. And it's great. We had also score reading where you see like the whole score, like an orchestra score, and it's like the whole page is just one line, and then you have alto clef, you have soprano clef, you have tenor clef, and then you have to like transpose it either one up, three down, whatever. So it was actually a great training that I had.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I can't imagine many places doing that today. It seems like, it
Kind of
was
a dying breed, yeah.
totally. I mean, that kind of old school classic training, which is
Yeah,
amazing. And I mean, that's something that obviously you had instilled in you, but a lot of people today don't even get that kind of training, not to
exactly.
mention the amount of, talent and hard work you put into it.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. I'm very lucky. It's maybe unheard of that I had actually four piano lessons a week. People look at me like, oh my God. But then kids have like four ice skating lessons a week if they're really serious about something, or hockey five times a week plus the games. So it's not so unheard of, but like for music, they look at me like, wow,
Yeah,
not
well,
just.
I guess that's another aspect that we should get into, that your teaching career as well. So like
Yeah.
you're probably the greatest piano teacher, and I'm not lying. I'm not saying this because she's my mom, but
Well, I give it
piano
my
teacher
all. I give my heart and
in the
soul.
world.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I love teaching. The funny thing is that growing up when I was like 16, 17, you know how kids are, they're kind of a little bit maybe stuck up. Not that I really was. I said that I'm never going to teach, I'm just going to perform and that will be it. But then I guess when I came to this country, I needed to make a little money. And then I started teaching and I loved it. And I loved giving my wisdom to other kids. And a lot of times they appreciate it, sometimes not so much because they didn't like to practice. They, different circumstances. But it was wonderful to give my wisdom. Quite a few of my students are actually professional pianists. So
Yeah.
it's a wonderful feeling for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you've taken several people from even not knowing any piano to becoming professional pianists, and then you've also obviously you take people of all levels. You've taken people from a mid level or a low level, or it depends. But like the point is that no matter what, when they study with you, suddenly very fast they suddenly become pretty good.
Yeah, I know. And it's such a wonderful feeling for me to get it back from them, because I give a lot, but when it returns, it like warms up my soul. I have to tell you honestly. So
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Great. Well, it's been
yes,
great to talk to you.
you too.
We ended on that note. And definitely check out Christina on her website, which is christinakisspianist.com, www.christinakisspianist.com. And again, she's the great, I mean, in my opinion, the greatest pianist in the entire world. Certainly, without a
Oh,
single doubt, the greatest interpreter of the music of Franz Liszt anywhere in the world.
thank
Um,
you so much.
and definitely follow her on all her social media as well, Instagram, Facebook, all of that. And we'll definitely have you on another time. So thanks so much, Mom, for coming on the show. And
Son.
also, thank you so much for being the greatest mom in the world.
Thank you, and the greatest son. I mean, I'm telling
Okay,
you, it's really true.
thanks so much. And that's all, folks.